Welcome and thank you for being here for our third session of the whole wheat and fiber class. So today we will be talking a little bit more about label reading, and then we'll also be talking about how to get more fiber in. So you always want to make sure that you're reading your labels. So I have some sample labels here, and as you can see, a lot of times, especially when we're in a hurry, we tend to base our shopping, our choices by just looking at the packaging. Well, unfortunately, sometimes the packaging could be very misleading. As you can see here, these are just some regular crackers, and it says whole wheat, 5 grams of whole grain at the bottom of the box. And so if you're in a hurry and you just look at this, it looks healthy and you might just grab it. I probably would grab it. And unfortunately, when you look at the nutrition facts label, you always want to make sure that you're looking at the total carbohydrate. Under there is the dietary fiber. This product actually has less than 1 gram of fiber. And when you look at the ingredients, the first ingredient is unbleached enriched flour. Now, you always want to make sure that the products that you're choosing have a higher content of fiber, especially if they're claiming that they're a good source of your whole grains. And then you also want to make sure that you're reading the ingredients list on the nutrition facts. You want to make sure that your first ingredient is whole grain. Now, in this particular product, the whole grain, they do have whole grain wheat in here, but it's not until about the middle of the ingredient list. Now, usually that means that there's not that much whole grain wheat in there. So usually you want to make sure that you see that whole grain right at the beginning of the ingredients list. Now, I also have another label here to show you. So this is a brand cereal, and a lot of times once we have a product that we kind of know is good for us, we've heard of it, we've consumed it most of our lives, we tend to just grab it and go, and we know about it. And usually, usually it's a safe item and we're good. But you still want to make sure that you're reading the nutrition facts label. So for example, for this brand cereal, you just want to make sure that you're reading the dietary fiber again, and this one has 7 grams of fiber, so that is actually a really good option. Now, you still want to make sure that you're reading your ingredients list. Now, on the ingredients list, here the first ingredient is whole wheat. Second ingredient is raisins. Now, this is actually a really good one because it's whole wheat is the first ingredient. So you want to make sure that you're just getting something that's whole and that actually is offering what it's claiming to offer you. It says that it's an excellent source of fiber, and it is pretty much true to what it's saying. It is 7 grams of fiber, which is actually pretty high. So you do want to make sure that you're consuming products that are good sources of fiber. Now, some of the things that we have learned already through the first session and through the second session. So we've learned that we do need to make half of our grains whole. And we learned that we need to start swapping them out. So just to summarize a little bit of what we have learned already, we need to start swapping. For example, instead of doing brown rice, instead of doing white rice, we need to do brown rice. Instead of doing white pasta, we can do whole wheat pasta. When we eat tortillas, instead of doing flour tortillas, we could either do whole grain, whole wheat tortillas, or we could do corn tortillas. So there is a lot of options for us to do a lot of different swaps. Also, we talked about the benefits. We've talked about how good and how fiber helps our digestive system. We've talked about how it helps prevent a lot of illnesses like cancers and high blood pressure and diabetes and all that. And then today we're actually going to focus on how much fiber we need. So we already know that it's healthy, we know that we need it, we know why we need it, and we know how to look for it. But how much do we need? A lot of times we're assuming that, as long as I get a little bit of salad and a couple whole grain swaps a day, then we're good. And sometimes, usually that may be enough, but sometimes it may not be. So one of the good ways to know, again, is to always look at the grams of fiber. And by knowing that we need about 25 to 38 grams of fiber. Sometimes we don't we don't know exactly how much we need, so it is hard to measure. But by just knowing that for women, we need at least about 25 grams. For men, men need about 38 grams because they are at higher risk of other cancers. So one way to know how much, if we are getting enough fiber is, for example, we have these. If you come to our class when we do have our food as medicine classes, one worksheet that we do like to do is our fiber in foods worksheet. So we have the fiber in foods, and then we have another one that's called Fill Up on Fiber that we'll be reviewing also. So this sheet here just gives you a basic, more common foods list. And it tells you how much fiber and what a serving size is. So this is a very good tool. If you don't have access to coming to see us in person, then this is something that we'll most likely be putting a link for it, and you could probably print it out at home. And so this is a very good tool for you to use at home, and you could see how much fiber you're consuming, because a lot of times we think that our highest amount of fibers could come from a food group that may not really be that much fiber. Fruits and vegetables are always recommended. We always recommend that you make half your plate fruits and vegetables. However, you will get the most amount of fiber through another source. You could get it through, for example, the beans. You could get it through your grains. Like, for example, if you have just half a cup of black beans, of cooked black beans, that already is 8 grams of fiber. Same thing with lentils, pinto beans, and also your grains. For example, if you have barley, cooked barley, just 1 cup of cooked barley is 6 grams. Also, or like bulgur. Bulgur has 8 grams for just 1 cup. So a lot of times we think that the most fiber comes from our fruits and vegetables. And yes, our fruits and vegetables have a lot of fiber, but our best sources of fiber are our grains and our beans. And so then we also have our other worksheet, our Fill Up with Fiber worksheet. So one thing that you can do at home, and you really don't need the worksheet, but one thing that you can do at home is, for example, you could just do like a food diary. You could write down what you had for breakfast, for lunch, dinner, and for snacks. And then just write down how much you had of it. And fill out how many grams of fiber were in each serving. A lot of times we may not know off the top of our head, or it's something that the package didn't really say how much, or sometimes we buy bulk items and we don't save the packaging when we're storing them. So you could always Google how much average, for example, for beans. You could Google how much fiber it may have, or you could always, again, you could look at our worksheets, but a lot of times you could also just looking at the packaging. That's the main thing. That'll tell you how many grams. And so just doing a food diary, and then at the end of the day, adding up how much fiber you consumed. That'll give you a good idea of whether you need more fiber, whether you need to add more, or whether you're pretty good as it is. So this is something that, again, we want to make 25 to 38 grams of fiber our goal. We always want to try to get at least 25. And so for today, this pretty much wraps up our whole grain and fiber sessions. And thank you so much for watching.